Hey, I want to welcome our viewers to a podcast that we're having on a regular basis. And we have some exciting things to go over with you this morning or today, depending on when you're listening to it. Lucas has been on a pretty far away trip. And so, having gone to Dubai and been back, he's going to give us three takeaways really for our viewers to kind of grasp as we talk business golf and as we go on his journey, which is coming over here to play golf, for a profession, scholarship, and now in the business world. So Lucas, for those that haven't seen or heard about you, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
My name is Lucas Mota. I was born and raised in Spain. I came to the US with a golf scholarship for a Division II school originally. Then after 3 years, I transferred to Kansas State, where I graduated from my undergrad in business and political science and my master's in communications and media. I realized that I didn't want to become professional, so I joined the labor force and I became pretty much an assistant in the M&A and investment banking world for a construction firm.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, like you said, I recently got back from a little world trip, not only Dubai, but like a little world trip.
So for our domestic U.S. viewers, Dubai is a little further away than like Birmingham, Alabama. So just give our viewers like when the three takeaways, which I think as we talked before the podcast, I want people to grasp the bigger picture. And so as you discovered the three takeaways, what would be your first takeaway from your recent trip?
Well, the first one is that it doesn't matter where you travel to. In the business world, golf is a tool. Every trip it's planned on a day of golf. So that is something that keeps shocking in my mind. And every time that I go to a meeting, regardless of what it is, it's like, oh wow, like the meetings is only 1 day or 2 days, but we are actually going 3 days because there's 1 day of golf that it's added. So that it's, I mean, for me, it's amazing.
Yes.
The second one, it would be
Well, let
that,
me ask you on that first one, because I want our viewers,
yeah,
you're discovering through your journey, like golf as a tool. And
yeah.
I want to bring people back to just a couple points off of that. You're exactly right. And when I would years ago go to a yearly sales meeting, we always had a day of golf. And I didn't have that level of golf expertise as you did, but I played all the time. So you end up with a good understanding of golf and a good game. You get placed in the best foursome because everybody loves to play with a good golfer. So as you're looking at your career, and maybe you're in high school, maybe you're in college, keep in mind that golf is a lifetime sport. It's a sport of relationships. And if you develop your skill and use your tool of golf, it can take you around the world, which it just did. Dubai.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go tell us the second insight or takeaway.
Well, something that I want to say about the first one though is that once you reached certain level of golf, like playing Division 1 or playing college golf, and your entire life has been focused towards becoming a professional golfer, it's a very difficult transition when you go to the business side of golf because you don't really know how to approach. Because my best game comes when I'm extremely focused on my ball. I'm dedicated. I'm hitting my range session before. I'm doing everything in a routine that has brought me like to these days, right? So
Mhm.
when you join the business golf side, I still haven't found the approach, and that's the difficult side of it, of how to play with the others. Do
Mhm.
you have to be worse than you actually are? Do you have to change your strategy maybe? Do you have to be focused on your ball so the others can see how good you are? So that side of business golf is the one that it's still something in development for me.
If I can, since I'm a few years older than you in the journey, it's interesting you bring that up because, and if I can give our viewers a little thing to think about, just like Lucas said, there's a change of focus. When you're trying to get to the highest level of golf, which would be like the tour, professional, getting paid for what you do, there's a mindset. And that mindset is almost wrapped around perfection because you got to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the business world, I want our viewers to kind of take away progress versus perfection is the best approach in business because if you still have the mindset that you have to have that perfect shot, you got to hit it this way, you got to shoot your 68 to really feel like you've done the best on the golf course, you're going to miss the ball because now your focus is on building relationships in business. Nobody cares whether you shoot an 80 or a 70 in business. They just know you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because I don't know if it's true, but 90% of golfers shoot over 95. So it's not like everybody is a highest caliber of golfer, but they can appreciate your insights because as you teach them and help them and give them some tips, it's coming from a person that played at the highest level. So it's not like I'm getting my tips from a 25 handicapper who doesn't really, I mean, he's a 25 handicapper for a reason. Now,
Right.
so, and a lot of people do that. They go on the golf course and they're 25 handicapper and they're giving the guy beside him all these tips. And you need to be working on your game, not that other guy's game. So I think it's important to grasp the concept progress versus perfection because your focus now is relationships, business, not the best score that you can get on that round.
That's very true. I mean, it's still something I have to work on.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. Like everybody is in a journey. And
Yeah.
when you embark on a new journey, like playing golf for, your college career
Mm-hmm.
to a business career, it's a completely different way of a path. So you're not going to be, that muscle is not developed like the other muscle.
Right.
So the only way you develop a muscle is you use it. So the only way you're going to get good at business and golf is you use it. You go to Dubai, you come back, you see all the different, you see that, like you said, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 3 days, 2 day trip was a 3 day trip because one day was golf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way it's mingling golf in with having fun and doing business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So give us that second takeaway.
The second one, it would be definitely learn a second or a third language if you can. New languages open you new horizons,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you are trying to do business abroad. You never know who are you going to be dealing with, and when the owners, presidents, all those higher response people um, speak other languages, and you can speak the same language. It doesn't matter if you are an assistant, if you are, at the lowest, just starting, but they will feel way more comfortable talking to you because your boss or your higher up of your company, if doesn't speak the same language as the owner of the other company, it will feel always better talking to someone that it's on the same level, on the same language.
Hmm.
And that's something that I've realized through obviously going to Dubai, because the company that we were dealing with, they are all internationals. They are all from all over the world, and happens that the CEO and president is from Mexico, therefore speaks Spanish.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that you brought that up because I spent 12 years in the restaurant business. And so, way back when, it was so important to be able to communicate with everybody that touched that restaurant. And in a lot of cases, learning Spanish and being very versed enough that you can communicate. I don't think that you have to be a master unless you grow up speaking,
Right. Yeah.
but you have to be able to communicate, because if you're talking in your language and they don't know or not comfortable, you're not going to have a good conversation with them. And I would always think, man, it would have been so good to be able to speak Spanish, because I can engage with everybody and I can really have a conversation with people that aren't, their primary language is not
Yeah.
English. So yeah,
No.
good point there. I love that. And I think you're right. We're now a global, economy. So English is not, yeah, I mean, you got to speak more than one language.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
It definitely helps.
yes, yeah, exactly. So what would you say? Anything else you want to add to that takeaway, or you want to get to our third takeaway?
No, that one is fine.
Okay. Well, give us that third takeaway. I know our viewers are on the edge of their seats because go ahead.
At the business world, everybody's connected, and therefore it's very easy to know about the other company, about the person you're dealing with. And so you cannot talk bad about anyone. You gotta make sure that you are very measured with your words,
Hmm.
because the business world, even globally, it's not that big. And through a couple networking people, you get to anybody. And something funny happened that we went to Dubai, we went to see this factory, and one of the people working at that factory, it was at the same event than some of our team. So it was like, wow, I know you. And that happened just out of nowhere. We didn't know anything about, the factory and stuff. And it was just, we showed up, we give us a tour, whatever. And then one of the people working there, it was actually related through a previous business, a previous job, through one of our team members.
Hmm.
And and that found out that you cannot talk bad about anyone. You gotta be very measured with your words.
Yes. Yeah.
And the world.
Yes. I totally agree with you. And I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, in our social media world, it's okay to be transparent, but when you're critical and you're putting a tweet out there or you're posting something and you're saying something negative against somebody else, that's a footprint that's out there. So it can, just like you said, it can come back to bite you in the rear end
Mhm.
if you're not presenting yourself in an encouraging or a way that people would want to do business with you. So if you're talking bad about your competitor, there was always a saying, be careful who you talk about. You may be working for them in the future. So I think that's a great point, that globally we're smaller, and it goes back to that principle is, if you don't have something good to say, about somebody, you don't need to say it, but there's always encouraging things that you can say, but be careful because your reputation is everything. And if people think, well, that guy, Lucas, man, he was talking about XYZ, they're now saying, hey, that's not a kind of thing in business that you would want to be attaching your name to. So good point there. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
So I know when you came back and we were talking, this is not your three takeaways, but for our viewers that, haven't been out of Atlanta or they haven't been out of their small cocoon, tell our viewers, like, how long did it take you to get to Dubai flying?
Well, if you count the layovers and the waiting time and stuff, it's 24 hours of full trip.
Wow.
You do usually one stop. There's no direct flight from Atlanta to Dubai, so you can choose where you want to do the stop, but it's one layover at least, and it takes you 24 hours. On the way there, it's way harder than on the way back because on the way back, you basically come sleeping. You're sleeping because you fly 1:30 a.m. So it's made that you go to bed. But on the way there, it's the tough one. When you leave at 5 p.m., that you are not tired and you have to handle two flights of 9 hours each or 10 hours each.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up because, we fly to the West Coast and it's always, if you're coming back, you're getting the red eye, as they call it. So you're sleeping, and it's a whole lot easier sleeping. And not that sleeping is like easy on a plane, but
right.
What was the accommodations when you were flying? Were you able to sleep coming back?
To be honest, somewhat, I slept like a baby. I didn't even saw the plane take off, and I saw it landing.
Really?
Yeah,
Dang,
it was.
That's pretty good.
I was so tired, I just literally passed out on the seat.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fortunate, I guess. But I know some people who cannot sleep on the plane,
Right.
and that makes it a little longer.
Well, that's a big plus because, when you're tired, you want to sleep. And there are some people, I know them, and, they have trouble sleeping. And so obviously it must be because your golf game is at such a level, you're peaceful with your golf game.
Not right now, Pete. Not right now.
Yeah, I know. We all have that mindset because you played at the highest level. So you come in and you're one over par and you go, man, I could have shot that 67 easy if I had just done this or that. We're saying, man, if I can break 80, not me, personally. Now I say if I can break 90 or 100, I'm good. So it all depends on what you're used to and what your game is, you're used to playing, because golf's a funny, crazy game. We're playing ourselves, not the course, 99% of the time. So, it just depends on what challenges we put before us. And your challenges to shoot a score are different than mine.
There was a funny video that I saw like a couple weeks ago that said when you're trying to break 100, you gotta play from the forward tees. Once you break 100, you can move to the next one. Once you break 90, you can move one step further. Once you break 80, you can move one step further. And once you break 70, you can move to the tips. And it's actually pretty accurate if you think about it.
Yeah, it makes sense that you have that progression. Yeah, I like that. I know I played the tips at Pine Tree. This was a couple years ago, and I wore out my utility club because I wasn't long 5 years ago, but I'm certainly was longer than I am now. But yeah, I think sometimes we jump to the tips before our game is ready. We want the idea, hey, play from the tips. And our male ego is, yeah, we can play it. And then you're just getting destroyed out there because the course is too long. But I think that I like that progression is when you hit certain levels, you start challenging your game, differently, because golf is a challenging sport, and you got to set yourself up to always be challenged, because I think, we may have said it in the previous podcast, is the way golf and business works. We're challenged in business. We're also challenged in golf. There's strategy in golf. There's hitting certain levels. There's competition. There's just all the elements that transfer over into the business community that makes it such a wonderful sport to work both together. Absolutely. Well, I know as we wind down here, Lucas, I want tell our viewers, like, how would they get a hold of you if they are interested in knowing more about the journey that you're on?
Well, you have my LinkedIn that usually it's where it's posted. So Lucas Mota Pascual, or you can have my Instagram, LukeSky_29. And that's about it. I'm not really a very social media person. So
yeah, that's actually good. Either am I. I mean, for a year, I never touched social media when I went through a little health journey. But yeah, and once you get your mind off of the scrolling of social media and the time, I call it a time suck. I mean, it just, people that will get on there for 10 minutes and then 2 hours later, they're still on there because it has an intentional way of keeping you on there. Right. You may not know that if you're listening and you're not realizing how much time you waste on social media. So, okay, well, we'll make sure in the show notes we put that information in there. So what would you want our viewers to take home from this podcast and your journey to Dubai? What would be the one thing that you could say to them?
Play golf.
I love it. I love it.
It sounds pretty simple, but
yeah, it is.
Play golf.
Yes, I love it.
It's gonna be very beneficial for you, regardless to what level you play or what approach you want to have with it. Play golf. It's the greatest sport on earth.
Oh man, I think the last couple takes have been good. You crushed it on that one. That one thing, simple, but very, if you embrace it, man, it'll make a difference in your business career. So thank you, Lucas. I appreciate it. We'll be back with you in a couple of weeks. So
absolutely,
we appreciate it. If you know of somebody that you think could benefit by hearing Lucas on this podcast, share it with them or put comments out there. I mean, hey, we definitely will answer things. So give us, if you have a question that you want to put before us, put it out there, and we'll, on a future podcast, get to it and give you at least Lucas's viewpoint on his journey, which is a relatively newer journey coming out of school now in the business world. Thank you, Lucas. We appreciate it. You have a wonderful day at work. And today it's a little chilly, so I don't know if you're getting out there and playing golf. But if you do, hit them straight and make a couple putts.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Pete.
You bet.